Hi, my name is Atticus with RC Products. Today we're going to show you how to install our no-clip body mount system on the Traxxas Slash 2-wheel drive and the Slash 4x4. The no-clip body mount system is to help save you from losing some body clips. So let's go ahead and begin with the install. Right now we're going to begin installation of our body mount system on the Traxxas Slash 2-wheel drive. To begin, we need to move the rear bumper out of the way or get it off of the truck, depending on whether you're running an RPM rear bumper or a stock bumper. If it's a stock bumper, you want to remove it from the truck entirely. Since we're running an RPM bumper, all we have to do is remove these two upper screws using a 2mm wrench, and we can rotate the bumper out of the way. With those screws removed, the RPM bumper will just fold down and out of the way so that we can access the 4 screws holding the rear body mounts to the truck. Using a 2.5mm screw or wrench, remove those 4 screws. Now that we've removed the rear, we continue on to the front. For the front, we're going to need to remove the 2 bulkhead screws from here. These 2 screws for the front bulkhead, and these 2 screws here. Using a 2.5mm wrench, go ahead and get those removed. And you'll see the front end comes apart. There are 2 more screws that need to be removed. These 2 here, to be able to remove the body mounts. Again, use your 2.5mm wrench. Please remember to keep all the screws you just removed because they will be used to reinstall on the truck once you install the RPM body mount system. Now we're going to begin assembling the rear body mount for the truck. We will need the adjustable legs here and here. We'll need the rear body mount. We'll need 4 3mm by 10mm long screws. To begin, simply clip off the adjustable legs. And then take a look at the number of holes that we have. These are your adjustability. Counting from the top, we're going to use the 2nd and 4th hole when it bolts to the rear body mount. This is what it'll look like once it's assembled. Take note that the direction is important with the bumps going upward away from the legs of the body mount. Next, we're going to install the lock plate onto our adjustable legs. This is our lock plate, and then we have 4 M3 by 12mm screws and 3 lock nuts. The way that we install it is simply sliding the lock plate in between the 4 bosses on the adjustable legs. And we'll slip a screw from the outside to the inside. And lock those in place with our 3mm lock nuts. Make sure when you're done that the lock plate goes up and around and not below. From here, we're going to install the rear mount assembly onto the rear shock tower. Now take note of the gap here. That's going to slide over the shock tower and down, and of the 3 holes on either side, we want to use the upper 2 on both. So it slides down as far as we can possibly get it. And you're going to reuse your stock screws to assemble that in place. Once it's in place, go ahead and reinstall your stock rear bumper if that's what you used, or if you're using the RPM bumper, just swing it back in place and bolt it back in place using the 2 screws you removed earlier. Moving to the front, we have our adjustable catch, our front body mount, and 4 3mm by 10mm long flathead screws. Take note on the body mount, there's an RPM logo on there, and you'll see that the RPM logo will actually be upside down once it's bolted on the truck. That's simply because this piece can be used on multiple vehicles. Moving to the catch, in order to maintain consistency from front to rear, we're going to use the 2nd and the 4th hole on the adjustable length to make sure that we have a similar setup in the front as we do in the rear. That's how it should look. To install the front body mount onto the stock shock tower, or the RPM shock tower if you're using it, use your stock screws. Using the middle of the 2 holes, or the 3 holes, you want to bolt that to the shock tower. Then bolt the front end back together using your stock screws. Take note how the catch faces rearward. The next step is to install the fan and fan shroud onto the radiator. For this step, we're going to use numerous parts. We're going to use our radiator, we're going to use our fan shrouds, we're going to use our fans, our lock foot in both places, 2 3mm by 25mm long screws, and 2 3mm lock nuts. Begin by clipping off the fan shroud and fan from their respective trees, as well as the lock foot. And then installing the fans with the fan shroud is very simple. Just take a close look at the fan and notice the bottom has all these little round ejector pin marks on them. That is the bottom. We want that to be away from the physical surface of the fan shroud. So just flip it over. Make sure when you put it in the back you can see those ejector pin marks. And now you see we have our fan inside of our fan shroud. Do that in both positions. The fan is nothing more than an aesthetic piece. You don't need it if you don't want it. We put it in there for people that really wanted the scale realism. But if you don't want it, you want to lose the weight, go ahead and get rid of it. To install the fan shroud on the radiator, simply slip the fan shroud into the hole in the back, and notice that the lock foot has a little key on it. The key will key in with the back of the fan shroud. When you slip it down, rotate it until it locks in place, and then simply slip one of the 3mm lock nuts in the back. If it doesn't want to go in straight, a quick little easy trick is to slip the 25mm bolt through, thread on the nut, naturally it doesn't want to go. And once it's threaded on a little ways, simply push it in place. Then you can lock it in place. Make sure when you're threading it together that the lock foot stays keyed with the fan shroud. If it comes loose, it's not going to bolt together properly. Use caution when bolting these two together because you want to make sure that the fan shroud moves freely on the radiator. So if necessary, back off the screw a little bit so that it moves nice and freely. You want that to be able to rotate because that's your lock. So again, when you go to put the two together, take note of the slot in the back and the key on the lock foot, and the two will key together. So slip that in, slide the 25mm screw through, slip the lock foot over the top, thread the 3mm nut onto the back, once it begins threading on, push it into the back of the lock foot, hold the two together so that they don't become dislodged or unkeyed, and lock it down. Again, making sure that the fan shroud moves freely. Best way is to take it until it just starts to bind up and then back it off just a little bit. Now, the other thing you want to pay attention to on the instructions is notice where the radiator cap is, and then notice the position of the feet. In order for it to fit properly in the lock plate, you want to make sure that the lock foot next to the radiator cap is up and the lock foot away from the radiator cap is straight down. This is the way it's going to get bolted onto the body of the truck, and it's the only way it'll slip into the lock on the truck once it's installed. Next, we're going to be doing the modifications we need to do to our body to make sure that the assembly will catch onto the truck. What you'll notice here is a stock Traxxas body. There are only a few bodies that this body mount system will work on, so we want to make sure that you get the right bodies. And the two bodies that will work on, one we're calling a number plate kit. You notice how there's a number plate on the side right here. The other body that's compatible with does not have a number plate. You want to make very certain that you're aware of which body you have when you go to install this, because the positions are different. For information on which bodies are compatible with our no-clip body mount system, take a look at the link below, or go to www.rpmrcproducts.com and visit the actual parts portion of our website so you can see which bodies will work. Now, if you take a look at the template, what you're going to see is a cut template, and there's multiple areas you need to pay attention to. Notice that there's areas that say no number plate body and number plate body. Again, it's very important that you research which body you have and make sure it's compatible with our system, and make sure you cut the template out based off of which body you have. Since the body we're using is a number plate body, we want to make sure we follow all of the guidelines marked number plate body windshield. This one also says back edge of number plate passenger cabin, so we want to follow that line, and we want to follow this line. Make sure you don't cut beyond the dashed lines. You should always be able to see them. A little bit of extra gap is okay, but keep as close as you can. As you can see, we've already clipped out our templates and placed them on the body and taped them in place. When you go to place these, you want to make sure that on the back template that it goes up against the edge of the cab here, and that it's centered as best as possible. Now, what's nice is Traxxas actually provides small dimples in the body, and they're actually on center line of the truck. So if you take the arrows and have it point directly at the small dimples, it will center it up. If you don't have those dimples, or perhaps it's an older body or a different body, then you want to make sure you try and center the template up as best as you can, making sure that the template is on the outside of the truck for the rear and up against the cab when you tape it down. For the front, you want it to be on the inside of the body, and again, you want the edge to go up against the windshield here and centered as best as possible. And on this one, there's actually a small dimple as well that you can line up that arrow with to make sure it's on center. On the template, you should have cut out the 4 screw holes. These are going to be 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter diameter holes, and the areas for the lock feet of the radiator need to be cut out. We're going to mark these areas on the body using a Sharpie or other marking device. so that we can cut those things out after we remove the template. On the front, we simply want to drill out these 1/8" screw holes in 4 places. With the holes, you want to be as accurate as possible. With the lock feet, make sure you go a little beyond the edges of this when you go to cut them out. We're going to be using an X-Acto knife to cut out our holes, but it's probably not the safest way to go about it. We would probably suggest using a drill to start a hole and then using a Dremel or a file to get the positions opened up as best as possible. For the holes, we recommend either a step drill or a body reamer. Once the body's been marked in both the front and rear, you can remove the templates if you'd like. Personally, I like to leave it in place just so that it allows me a better view of exactly where the drills need to go. It makes it easier to center up the drill. As you can see, we have our holes drilled and our slots cut for our lock feet. We also have the holes drilled for the front of the body as well. At this point, if you haven't already, you can remove the templates and you can go ahead and paint your body. We are going to leave ours clear for now, just so that you can see what we have going on for the rest of the installation. But for you, go ahead and paint your body at this time before you proceed. Next, we're going to install the front body mount onto the front of the truck, and for that, we're going to need the front body mount, 4 3mm by 12mm long screws, and we're going to need the 4 body buttons off of the tree of the fans and fan shrouds. Make sure when you put the body button on, you want the tapered side up, so it looks something like that. If you're going to run the truck pretty rough, if you're going to bash it, you want to make sure that you use the body buttons. If you don't plan on bashing it, if you're going to use the truck for a display, or if you're going to use it to just lightly run, then you don't need the body buttons. When you install it on the truck, this side will go towards the body, this side will be the bottom with the RPM logo. So it'll sit just like this. Now on to the last part of our installation, that's the radiator onto the body. This is very simple with just using our radiator assembly, our 4 3mm by 8mm long screws, and our 4 number 4 washers. Again, we need to make sure that we look at the back and make sure that our lock feet are positioned correctly, with the side near the radiator cap up and the side away from the radiator cap pointing straight down. Take your radiator, slip it through the slots, hold it in place, flip it over, and then when you go to install the screws, take a look at your washers. There's a sharp edge and a smooth edge. You want to make sure that the smooth edge goes towards the body, not the sharp edge. Remember when you're doing this to keep everything loose until all 4 screws are installed before you tighten everything down. Don't worry if the lock feet move while you're doing this. You can always fix it once you're finished screwing everything in place. If the lock feet have moved like mine did during the installation, simply move them and orient them so that they match what's been cut in the body. They'll need to be oriented like this so that they'll fit within the lock plate on the chassis. The installation of the no-clip body mount system is complete. Now all you have to do is install the body onto the truck. Our body is clear, so it'll be easy for you to see what we've got going on, but because your body will be painted when you go to do this, we recommend turning the truck onto its side so that you can watch the body mount slip into the catch. Once that slips into place, just push forward a little bit and push down. And rotate the fan shroud to 180 degrees until it locks into place, and you're done. That concludes the installation of the RPM no-clip body mount system on the Traxxas Slash two-wheel drive. For more products and more product information, please visit us at www.rpmrcproducts.com. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.